Hey guys, what's going on? It's Rekt Capital and welcome back to the channel. Thanks so much for joining me in today's video about the stock to flow model through the lens of Bitcoin's price action. What is it doing? How has this crash influenced the stock to flow of Bitcoin? Subscribe to the channel for more videos like this in the future and let's dive right in. So if you look at the stock to flow model, you'll notice that we were perfectly following the stock to flow line here, the 360-day average for the stock to flow line in association with Bitcoin's price. But then we started to move sideways at approximately the same time that the stock to flow line flattened out, as opposed to really steeply progressing towards the upside, inclining, and Bitcoin's price perfectly following that. So really, we've been perfectly following this stock to flow line for many months, and now we're still following this stock to flow line, though not closely like before, but still in the same way, because the stock to flow line has flattened out and Bitcoin's price action essentially has flattened out in a way of its own by just extending into a sideways range, an extended macro consolidation. But we haven't seen an upside deviation, and this is something I spoke about a few days ago here on the channel, that upside deviations beyond the stock to flow line tend to end the market cycle. So you can see a Bitcoin bull market peak over here beyond the stock to flow line, here as well, and here as well. We haven't seen anything like that in this market cycle dating to back to March 2020. So we haven't really seen a deviation, and this sort of close perfect alignment of the stock to flow line doesn't really count in the same way that we can't really say that this little deviation was the end of the bull market, because we need to see upside deviations that are tremendous overextensions beyond this stock to flow line like so, and we haven't really seen that. Even before the halving, we saw an overextension here, which was an invalid overextension. I talk about that more in a Rekt Capital newsletter. But this, even here, was an overextension in of itself, much higher than what we saw here. So this wasn't an overextension. We're still waiting for one to just end the Bitcoin bull market. And that overextension will begin at around $84,500 for Bitcoin. So once we breach this stock to flow line here, we're going to see an overextension which could last a few weeks. And that's when we should pay attention to Bitcoin topping out. Because for the time being, this crash, if we just zoom in here, this crash doesn't change anything on the macro scale. We're still macro consolidating inside this range here, just meandering within this range, but no upside deviation has happened. The fact that we're just crashing here for the time being it doesn't change anything in the macro perspective. We're still waiting for that macro event of the upside deviation, which happens in every cycle. That hasn't happened yet, so there's no reason to be worried about this crash, because this crash is a means to an end in just solidifying Bitcoin's price positioning at current price levels. And we'll talk about Bitcoin's price positioning through the lens of its macro flagging structure and supporting that with pi cycle analysis. And before we dive into today's analysis about Bitcoin's flagging structure as well as the pi cycle analysis, this edition of the Rekt Capital newsletter and today's YouTube episode is brought to you by Phoenix. It's a fast and secure derivatives trading platform which is faster, 3 times faster than other margin leverage exchanges. The other noteworthy features are spot trading with 0 fees on plenty of pairs, a trailing stop loss feature, and 20% APY on USDT deposits. But perhaps best of all, Phoenix offers an exclusive $1,100 bonus upon sign up. So feel free to sign up to Phoenix and get that bonus by signing up with my link in the description down below. And having said that, let's dive into the Bitcoin macro flagging structure update here. This is something I spoke about in early August on the Rekt Capital newsletter. And if we just fast forward to a few weeks back, we traversed the entirety of that macro flagging structure, with 52,800 being the top of that macro flagging structure. And we got a picture perfect retest here, a picture perfect rejection of the top of that flag. And now we're in a period of time where this red area is the midpoint of this overall flag. So this is the top of the flag, this is the bottom of the flag, this is the trend line that just denotes deviations below that flag. But nonetheless, this red box is the midpoint of this flagging structure, and it is a support zone that is approximately confluent with the 21-week EMA, a valuable time-tested bull market indicator. And you can see that we're briefly losing these two areas, this major support area at around 43,000 and the Bitcoin bull market indicator that is the 21-week EMA. This is the support area that needs to hold, because for Bitcoin to maintain the upper half of the flag, it needs to maintain this support area right over here. Because if it breaks down, if it confirms a breakdown from here, it's going to revisit the lower half of this macro flagging structure. So breaking down from this red area and the 21-week EMA, we'd revisit the lower half of the macro flagging structure, which is 36 to 43,000. So essentially, what we need to be looking at here is that Bitcoin needs to close above 42K for its historical mid-cycle price tendencies to continue repeating, as they have been since May for several months now. So how does this macro flag tie in with that? It needs to hold above the 21-week EMA and that major demand zone until the end of September, and that could be a big ask. But what's going to be supporting Bitcoin's price action going into the end of the month is the Pi cycle top 111-day moving average, which is this orange moving average. And before we dive into that, here's a tweet that I shared on August 7th that we're going to see a midterm retest of this MA, because it's going to be an important indication in confirming a Bitcoin bull market return. And you can see here that we broke beyond this Pi cycle top moving average, and now we're retesting it as a support. So how could this Pi cycle top moving average support a consolidation period heading into the end of the month? You can see that I've extrapolated this moving average and we're already finding support here. That's okay. That's all well and good at the moment. But we have to know that this red area is going to be a resistance, which is 43,000. And you can see that this was a previous support region, rebound, and even a rebound here, but ultimately losing this area of support. So this could be a resistance going forward. But it's important that even if we were to rally towards this region and maintain these highs, that's still a higher price level than what we need to close above. And we need to close above 42K at the end of the month for that bullish price predicament to continue, for history to continue repeating itself. So if the Pi cycle top can support a consolidation period, can support a ascending triangle, for instance, this being the uptrend line and this being the top of that ascending triangle, that would be really interesting. Could we see consolidation inside here for a few days heading into the end of the month? Because the most important thing to talk about this upcoming September monthly candle close is that we've seen for the past 4 months consecutive, consistent higher lows on the monthly. And you can see that this is a uptrend, a technical uptrend that cannot be ignored. That's first and foremost. But let's talk about this 45,200 level. In February, we couldn't break above it, sustainably at least. We overextended beyond it, but we couldn't break above it ultimately. So this was a resistance in February. But you can see that in August, this past August, we broke back above that level, but we haven't been able to retest this level as a support. That being said, we've broken back above the resistance in February, but we're actually retesting the top of the June and July resistances. So essentially turning these two resistances into a support last August, as you can see here, and into a support this month as well. So in fact, we're actually seeing consecutive higher lows here, with this recent retest of 41,400 being that fourth consecutive higher low. And that's worth mentioning because that's a bull market tendency, or at least a bullish mentality in buying the dip at higher and higher prices whenever we see an opportunity to do so with downside wicks, which get bought up quite quickly. So we need to have a monthly close above 41,400 for this retest attempt, this macro retest attempt to be successful. Of course, it would be phenomenal to actually monthly close above 45,200. That would be a really bullish sign. But ultimately, above 42,000 and above what 41,400, that would be sufficient for a successful retest on the monthly scale. Let's talk about Ethereum's monthly candle close before we wrap up here, which is a little bit cleaner. You can see that it's much cleaner than the Bitcoin monthly close, because Bitcoin actually has two levels here to contend with, whereas Ethereum has a much cleaner price predicament. This was the final major resistance area that was rejecting Ethereum's price action for many months. Here in April, we rejected from here. We overextended briefly, but ultimately closed for a rejection the following month. So rejection for 3 months straight. And now we've been able to break past that resistance area back in August, this past August. And now we're in the process of turning this 3-month resistance into a new support. So this is a textbook retest attempt right here. So a monthly candle close could give rise to a green October for Ethereum, because this is a picture perfect retest attempt before trend continuation. So that's about it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching today. Subscribe to the channel for more videos like this in the future. And of course, please leave a like if you enjoyed this one and would like to see more content like this going forward. Thanks so much for watching once again. I'm Rekt Capital and I'll speak to you in the next one. Speak to you soon.